Oh, dude, Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now, it's the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York, home of the vast majority of us are safe and we were not harmed in the shooting land. It's actually really interesting because the shooting that occurred the other day in Brooklyn happened in the most obscure part of Brooklyn. It's like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that happened, because it's like there. Like, I could imagine like 10 places that something like that would happen first, then there. It's like nowhere. It's just like a random stop. And it happens to be the stop that I went to many, many, many times, because I used to work as an art fabricator with someone who had a studio out there, because studio space was so cheap, because it was in the middle of nowhere. So that is how we got there. Folks, lovely to be here with you. Be back in action, actually live, not just a replay, here with you today. Amuse Dave, welcome. Hello all, great to see you. Great to see you again. You've saw me, but just in video form. Glad to be here with you at this moment. I am coming to you from BK. I'm safe. I'm grateful to be safe. And I'm grateful to, oh my God, I'm so grateful to see my dog again. I was missing my dog so much. Oh my God. Oh, it's, first time chatter here. Oh, if because it's your first time, you don't know that we have a tradition here on this stream for first time chatters. Anyone who's been here for any time whatsoever is already way ahead of me. But very lovely to be here with you. And we are delighted to be here with you. Thank you, first time chatter. That is Havaleska. Hello, welcome, Havaleska. Lovely to be here with you, as always. There's a weird thing happening on my screen. Then I can't get rid of it. Okay. Why that would be the case, I don't understand. Okay, so the point is, folks, we're going to meditate here like giants of consciousness, and it's going to be great. So what are we doing next? Okay, so Dave says he's here from Lithuania, grateful for new knowledge. Well, geez, Dave, what knowledge is that? I want to find out what you've known, what you've discovered. I'm also today, I should put this in the chat, that IFS meditation and psychedelic report. Okay, that's incorrect, spelled incorrectly. AYHUAS. Okay, whatever. Okay, so folks, we're going to be meditating here with Havaleska and everyone else. So folks, hit me with where are you at, what are you grateful for, and then we'll jump into the meditation coming soon. I was thinking I wanted to do a meditation that was a little bit more, not more advanced, but maybe a little more advanced. We'll see. Meditation is interesting to explore. It helps in many spaces, especially kind awareness that I've learned from you. Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad that is helpful, glad it's impactful. I'll mention that, I've been thinking more and more about like the relationship between meditation and psychedelics, because people keep asking me what's the relationship between these two, and I have opinions. I'm actually doing a whole series on that topic. Not a whole series, I'm doing a whole, I'm doing an event on that exact topic coming soon. So folks, we're going to meditate here for 25 whole minutes, and then after that, we're going to chit-chat like kitty cats, and I want to find out what happened in your meditation experience. We'll invite people to jump on to, I was just in your homeland, Portland. I was, during that lovely snowstorm that we had, I was stuck on the tarmac for 3.5 hours because I decided I was taking a really early flight, and lo and behold, they didn't have any de-icing stuff, so I was exactly in Portland, exactly covered in snow in a plane for many, many hours. I was just going to put something, this in the chat. Okay, so afterwards we'll chat on Discord, and that's the link for the Discord. So Alex is here from Portland, grateful for whales. I'm assuming you mean the animal, not the section of the British Isles. That is awesome. Did you see any whales? Have you had any contact, or just for their existence in general? Aaron B, grateful for new glasses. Excellent. I'm not a glass wearer, but maybe I should be. But I know how important new glasses are. When you get them, it feels like it's a whole new you. I wonder what kind, if you have it's weird that you can't share pictures. This isn't really that kind of platform, but if you have a link to the frames or what they look like, I'd be curious. Just Andy from Queens, grateful for the mindfulness reminder to observe objects in a more non-attached way, to return to a more neutral state. Excellent. Neutral state. A neutral state like, I don't know, who's the Switzerland of states in the United States? Well, we could call Switzerland a neutral state, although I think they recently took a stand on Ukraine, which I think is good. I think they've accepted that they weren't actually neutral during the war, that they were actually just the bank for the Nazis. Okay, folks, we're going to meditate here. What I want to do as far as the meditation is I wanted to have something where we're communicating with our parts. We're going to do some sort of IFS-y type parts work stuff. And I'll explain beforehand if you don't know what that means, what that's about. Havaleska is from Melanja, Spain. Excellent. Good times. I'm glad you're here with us. I did my IFS training in Spain, technically, although it was over Zoom, so I actually did it in my apartment, but it was the Spanish IFS sort of community. Just glad to know they're on the earth with us. Me too. Gotta go see when they migrate, and the weather has been freaky. I know it's been so weird. It was really weird because it was like, oh, it was like cool, drizzly day, and then it was like, oh, there'll be snow tomorrow. I was like, okay, I mean, I don't know, sure. And I woke up in the morning, and I particularly picked a Airbnb close to the airport because I was like, it's like a 10-minute drive. This is make my life really easy in the morning. And I got up in the morning, hit the button, and it was like, our car is 17 minutes away. And I was like, okay, fine. I guess sometimes they take a long time, and it's $90. I was like, what? I was like, is this just price gouging? Like, what is, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I can do. I guess I just hit yes. And then I walk outside and it's just like, a big thick pad of snow on the ground. I was like, oh, okay. And that was already like 5:30 in the morning. So it just got worse. Slushy snow. Okay, folks. So we're going to meditate on IFS stuff. I wanted to do talking to parts. So a quick introduction to what is IFS and what do we mean when we say our parts. So we're talking about IFS is a multiple self model, the idea that we have these different drives and selves within us, and a lot of our difficulty comes from conflict of those different parts. One part of us wants to take a nap and hang out. Another part wants to accomplish some big thing. And a lot of the time that those parts come together and they kind of fight with each other. So anytime in our minds we say, oh, I really have to do X, or oh, I should do this, right? That's a conflict between two parts. One part is like, I really think this is important to do. And another part's like, I don't really want to do this. Maybe later. And so we're like, I really should. So it's a very common part of our experience that we have different parts colliding. How do we work with that? Well, first we recognize that the parts are there. We bring a kind of aware relationship to them. We're gentle with those. We're just open to them. And then eventually we start to develop a relationship. The friendship phase transitions into kind of having a relationship, and we start talking to those parts. Parts can talk in many forms. They can talk with words. They can say, this is stupid. I hate this meditation. Why are we doing this? Or this is amazing. I'm so happy I'm on this live stream. If you have any sense of a personality, or you like this or dislike this, or there's any drive within you right now, that is a part. I forget which question I was answering. So we notice the parts are present. We bring a type of friendly relationship to them. Oh yeah, and they can talk in many languages. So they can speak. They can also just show us images. They can also show us emotion in the body, and their way of communicating might be to show, a sensation or two. The other thing I want to mention is that sometimes parts will speak without saying anything, or rather what they will communicate is no data. You'll ask the part a question like, how are you? And the part it'll just be blank. Now you'll know the part's there, you'll have a sense that there's a part, but it's not responding. It just doesn't respond to that question. That's all. That's still communication. It's telling you that's not a question that I care that much about, or doesn't matter either way. It's just sort of, either way. It's or insufficient, not enough data, whatever it is. So just know that can happen as well. Amused Dave says, how can awareness pass through all objects? Good question. Do you mean to take different locations perspective? Do you mean we take different locations perspective? Hearing example, I can become aware and feel it like there is no distance between me and the sound. Okay, so part of so Aaron's asking a question, and I've said this before, awareness can pass through any object. Basically, part of what that is the acknowledgement that the objects are actually created in the mind. Objects are not things in the world. There is a difference between physical things in the world and objects that are created in the mind. This is like a key sort of framing of nama and rupa. So the example I often give is this bell, because it's the one object that I consistently have on my desk. Okay, so we can see this now, right? So this is this bell, right? And it seems like an object. It seems really clear this is an object. It's not confusing to anyone that this is like a thing in the world, right? There is a world that exists and this thing is in it. It's not, this is in brain science, it's pretty obvious, right? Okay, now you can't see that object. For you, where does that object exist? Well, it only exists in the mind. There is no physical thing that exists there. Now, I can close my eyes and I still have a sense of that bell. It is still an object in the mind. But that objectiness does not belong to the matter that it is made of. It belongs to my mind. It belongs to the system that created it. So that thing can be totally independent from the actual physical thing that's down here. All of our experience is built out of all these little objects. And so all of those objects are just mind stuff. Awareness can pass through the spatial location of any of that mind stuff. So right now, as I consider the bell's existence, it's still sort of floating up here because that's where I first kind of encoded it. And I can just let awareness pass through that space. Now, as I do that, personally, this is for me, as I'm letting awareness pass through the space, there's kind of like a hitch, like it gets caught on where that object was. Like the mind is like, okay, it's just passing spatially through, and then there's like, oh, as though it's sort of hitting the edge of this object. But it's important to know that that's just the mind. There is not a thing in the world that awareness is stuck on. It's the mind gripping at that point because, ultimately it thinks it needs to hold the world together in that way. So hopefully that answers the question. And yeah, that was Amused Dave. I thought that was, for some reason I thought that was Aaron. Okay, so with that, folks, let us gallop ourselves right into meditating. And we'll go from there. Make sure my microphone is not funky. There we go. And let us practice. Let us do some meditation. Find a nice, comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. And in a moment, we will begin. Okay. Great. Oh, before we start, sorry, I know we're just about to begin. If there are any questions about the IFS thing, let me know now, and I can make sure to clarify them before we begin. Let us go with, okay, Havalaska. When you're ready, let me know, and we'll begin the meditation. Hit me in the chat when you're ready. I'm going to encourage folks to practice in stillness. So find a way to hold the body still, arranging the knees lower than the hips so that the hips can sink into the cushion, letting the lower back balance all the way through the tailbone, through the crown of the head. All right. If it's not Havaleska, it's not going to tell us when we're ready. Anyone else? Is anyone ready? Let me know in the chat. And when you're ready, we will begin. Or not. We don't have to meditate. I'm like, did this stream go down? Okay, excellent. Okay, Alex is our champion here. Okay, and I always have to figure out, do you prefer Alexandra? Anyway, let me know. Okay, folks, let's jump in here. Let us begin. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and feeling the body rise and fall. Each time we begin a meditation, we begin with the momentum of all of the previous moments. So all of the decisions we've made up until this point, all of the causes and effects that spill into this particular moment. This is the ground on which we begin. And the way that we begin to affect that momentum, step out of its gravitational force, is by soaking into the sensations of this particular moment. So as we sweep through the body to be sure we're not holding any undue tension, taking each of the sensations as important. Letting go of the part of the mind that says we've experienced this before, so we can just rush through the process. So starting at the top of the head, relax the brow. Relax the muscles behind the eyes. Allow the face to go smooth. Relaxing the back of the tongue and allowing the jaw to go slack. Relaxing the neck and the shoulders. Relaxing the arms, the wrists, and relaxing the hands. Letting go of any attempt to control the breath, letting the body breathe as it will. Noticing natural tightening and relaxing of the upper chest and upper back as the breath comes and goes. Relaxing the belly and the lower back. Relaxing the hips Only up your legs, the knees and calves. Relaxing the ankles and relaxing the feet. And taking a moment to relax the entire body all together as one collection. This requires us to use awareness rather than the laser focus of the mind. It's more of the open lantern of the mind. So letting go in all directions. And letting go into all of awareness. So letting the mind softly take in everything all together. And beginning to notice if any parts of us are arising. At first this can seem subtle or elusive, but notice if there's a sense of a meditator. A sense of me. Recognizing these are simply parts of our experience. There's any other aspect of our experience that would change this moment in any way. If it had a magic wand and could change anything about this moment, would it take that action? It's not a problem that some part of us wants things to be different, but just noticing any part like that. Notice where it's occurring, in or around the body. Being sure to welcome that part. Our stance towards that part should be something like the phrase, of course. Just accepting as it is, of course. Re-establishing any friendship that we've cultivated with this part. Welcome, of course. And often it can feel as though we can clearly detect the part, but we want to be sure that the part can detect us. This might seem strange, counterintuitive, but just going with it. Can the part detect that I'm here, or does it seem oblivious? Helping that part notice this. And of course, it's possible that we can't detect any such part. So I'm going to support us by evoking a bit of a challenging part, but it's important that we don't slide into overwhelm. So if it's helpful, I would encourage you to slow down the breathing. Breathing in for at least 7 seconds, holding for 3 or 4, breathing out for at least 7 seconds of a smooth, subtle out-breath. After a few minutes of this, that will calm the nervous system. So being sure we're engaging in this way so that no part of us feels overwhelmed. So I'd like you to look for any part of you that you recognize or remember that has felt overwhelmed, sad, alienated, or alone, frustrated, anxious. It doesn't have to be all of these. We're just looking for one. And at first, as we begin to evoke this part of us, it can feel like that's just me. I'm feeling some of that right now. And that's normal. That's just the part blending, or we could say we are identifying with that part. But noticing where it's occurring in the body, noticing its uniqueness. Noticing its size or weight. The part you're interacting with may have all or none of these qualities, so just finding that part. How does it express itself? The part I'm in contact with is one that feels alone, isolated, confused. In my body, it's appearing as a set of sensations on the left side, in the throat, chest, and belly. And there's a kind of sense of an activation or a presence of that part on the left side of my body towards the front. In the body a bit, but also in front of the body. Yours will likely be quite different, but I just wanted to give an example of when we happen to find one very clearly, it can seem like this. If you're not finding a part and you're frustrated, that's a part. So just finding any part, even if it's one you remember from the past, and seeing if you can locate its presence now. Of course, our first task is to simply be with it and let it feel our presence here. So establishing this, at some point we can detect the part. But can that part detect us? And as you sit with that part, you may notice that certain thoughts or emotions arise. And these may be related or unrelated. So you want to see if they feel like they are connected to this part. They may or may not be, but this might be a sign that we're simply just a little distracted, just floating away. So just returning to the part. Recognizing that this part is a kind of character. It has its own directionality, its own way of being. Often that way of being can feel very familiar, can feel like it's me, or an aspect of me, in other words, a part. So part of what it's communicating is that way of being. Part of what it's communicating is that way of being. So as we listen to the part, it's essential that it feels safe. So we begin by simply seeing if we can offer anything that would make it feel more comfortable. So we might try a phrase like welcome, welcome, or I see you. And we'll know right away the part will respond positively or welcomingly. It will be neutral, or it will not like the phrase we use. Whatever the response, we effectively say, I hear you. And then either continue with our phrase if it's working, or choosing something else. Each of these responses should be considered communication. And of course, as we contact a part, it's possible that another part will come online. And this part might be one that protects the part we're in connection with, or it might just be a different random part. So we welcome the new visitor. We don't push it away, but we do ask if it would be okay if we continue connecting with this other part. So for instance, distraction might arise. Sleepiness might arise, or frustration, or any number of different internal drives. We welcome that. And then turn towards this particular part that we welcomed and say, would it be okay if I just continue this conversation with the part we began with? And now we're in communication with this new part, and it will say, that's fine, either by fading into the background, or it might say that explicitly. But we'll know if it's okay if we continue the conversation, because it will allow us to. It'll drift away, or it will keep asserting itself. And if it keeps asserting itself, we simply switch. This is our new target part. Welcome. And we open a dialogue with this part. So the process is simple. We locate a part. We establish a warm environment. We check to see if that part can tell that we're here, present with it. And we begin to listen, to offer comfort. Then another part comes in, perhaps an intellectual part that understands the process, rather than a direct experience of the part. We welcome that. Welcome. Ask if it's okay if we continue with our target part. And listen to the response. We'll know if we're coming from our true self, if our relationship to any and all of these parts is simply welcome, of course. If it feels like we ourselves dislike a part, want to get rid of it, or want it to change, that simply means that another part has arisen and has blended with us, or we've identified with it, meaning it's taken on the seat of consciousness and it feels like it is us. In which case we start the process over, recognizing that that's a part, seeing if we can be with that part instead of in it. Bringing comfort, compassion, and then listening. And so staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes, eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point as they fully open, letting this spaciousness of seeing expand the spaciousness of awareness. Letting that spacious awareness be a soft, welcoming home for any and all parts. Taking a moment to thank whatever parts we've been in contact with. And in this way, allowing this particular moment to be the great teacher that shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay. Allowing the body to stretch. Here we go. Now is where you tell me what happened, what that was like, and what you're like now. Here's the Discord again if you want to jump in by voice. Or if you want to use those digits, my favorite digital technology, and let me know what that was like. Yeah, that was fun for me. It's really interesting to watch the meditator, the teaching part, the part that understands, because it can get very solidified as a self that I don't watch and don't see as a operating self, or I don't notice it as a part. And in fact, that is very related to my psychedelic experience on this last week, actually. It's very recently. It feels like a month ago. Time distortions. Okay, folks, hit me with where are you at? Not where are you at? What happened, what it was like, and what it's like now. I'll open up the Discord in case people are there to chit-chat. Chit-chat. And where are we here? There we go. Got it. We have some people already popping in here. Let's see. Meditation chatting. Welcome, folks. Very nice to see you here, both Aaron and Amuse Dave. If you want, you both have your hands raised. Okay, so we're going to jump right in here. I'm going to have Aaron pop in first. Can I just drag you? No, I have to actually ask. Invite to speak. You're welcome to pop in if you have any questions, comments. Aaron, welcome.
Thanks.
What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't just today. It's an experience I've been having lately where I feel one part that I've kind of come to think of or see as like a boss part,
Mm-hmm.
and that part, I've had good experiences or good results getting parts to relax, but then there's sort of one like higher functioning, higher level boss part that then it's like its job is to make sure that the parts don't relax.
Okay.
It wants the system to continue the way the system has continued.
Right. Yeah.
And it feels like, like you mentioned, being blended or having a part that feels almost completely like the self.
Yep.
And it does really feel like that. It feels like it's like big and kind of all encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
And it wants, I think it recognizes that, like, it wants things to be different, but it also doesn't want to make any changes because there's fear around making changes and allowing the other parts to relax and sort of take some time off.
Great. Yeah, so the first thing is it's important that parts know that we're not trying to change them. So just to be with that part and to be with it as much as you can, because right now it feels like you're in it. And so we've talked about, like, mentioned this concept of prayer position, but if that part is just you and there's no separation between you and it just feels like that is your reality, it is the self at this moment, even then there's still like some kernel of like, yeah, but I know this is a part, but it still feels very blended. So from that place, prayer position works, where you're reaching out to kind awareness, even if it's not, doesn't feel like it's present. You'll notice that anytime if you can operate from that self and take in more data, rather than its little solipsistic sort of self-referential view, every part will tend to be like, okay, this is my reality, this is my task, this is the thing, and it's like a shape. And so there's that shape, but then if you can take in more, this is what I call prayer position, you're reaching out from a central perspective. If you can take in more, it creates a little bit of softness within that part. And so you're just opening up awareness, you're connecting with kind awareness and letting that part be present, sort of blended in the middle, and you're just hanging out there. You don't need to change anything, you don't need to do anything. It's just over time going to really soften that part and make it realize, like, oh, wait a minute, if I'm not just like the thing, it's actually okay, and it can relax a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so be with the part, but then kind of with the kind awareness, add some context around it. So then I see that there is actually more than just that part.
Exactly. And it's a difference between being in the part and being with the part. So if you're just in it, there's no way to even tell that it's a self. So right now, operating is a kind of an operational self that I'm experiencing right now as I'm talking to you. And it feels very much like it's me, because it tends to be one that is operating a lot of the time, managing things, getting things done, that kind of thing. So what I'm trying to do is just recognize, okay, that is a part. It has to be a part according, if we follow this theory, and I've experienced something outside of that previously. So let's just accept this as a part and really welcome it. It doesn't have to fight for its existence. I'm not going to tell it to go away, and just be like, oh, welcome. So happy you're here. Like, good, you're welcome. And for right now, at least for me, there is a little bit of a shift where that part's like, oh, okay. Like, I don't have to take over and be like, I'm the self, and prove that I'm the self, because it's just, I'm welcomed anyway. Okay, well, cool. And so, yeah, you want to take over, go ahead. No big deal, but just know you're welcome, and know we're here for you. And it can feel almost like that welcoming isn't us doing it because we feel like we're the part. It's sort of just part of the environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It definitely does.
Awesome. All right, give it a try. I'd be curious to hear how it goes.
Yeah, I'll definitely sit with that some more today. So yeah,
awesome. Great, fantastic. Okay, next we have, let me do just Andy's comment here, and then we'll jump to you, Dave. Just Andy says the following. Where is my thing? It is here. Nope. It's right here. Just Andy says the following. Nope. Try it again.
Was an interesting meditation. My waking life is completely going great, but my dreaming life has been revealing a lot of past traumas. During the meditation, I worked with the part that was experiencing this discomfort in what I said. I see you, I also included, and I love you, and it just felt very welcoming and wholeness.
Excellent. So I just want to mention, so this is an interesting thing where parts will feel like, like saying a phrase like "I love you" works really well for some parts, and other parts are going to be like, "Whoa, like what is that about?" And this happens often, when we do any kind of heart practice or loving kindness practice, where we're saying like "I love you" or "May you be safe and healthy," and there'll be parts that'll just be like, "This is so stupid. What a dumb exercise. Why are we doing this?" So what that means is, in one case, a part will like those phrases. In another case, the part does not like those phrases. So you need to modulate the phrase for the part. And you can tell right away that feedback is very direct. So I'm glad that was, good direct feedback, that you got a sense of what that part needs. And then, you were able to work with that. And you can start to feel like what the parts and needs are. And that's ultimately what IFS does, is we're starting to meet the parts and needs over time. So hopefully that is helpful. Thank you for your very clear report. Let's jump to Dave. I'm going to put you back in the audience here, Aaron, and then Dave. I'm going to invite you to speak. You have been cordially invited.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to be back. How was the week with all replays? I don't know if you got to catch any replays, but I don't know how it is for people to be here when I'm physically not here. I'm just here virtually.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I didn't attend to them.
That's cool. No big
but
deal. Just curious.
I checked on Monday. I think it wasn't live.
Yeah, I had planned on being here, but it was Alex's fault. Alex brought the snowstorm into Portland. Just kidding.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it was stuck in a snowstorm. Awesome. So how might I be helpful?
Yeah, so meditation was relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask, is it okay to notice
No.
welcoming
Not
part
okay.
welcoming part as a part as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's totally fine. Notice the welcoming part as a part. There basically, if we really get attuned to kind awareness, it can get to a place where it doesn't feel like it's a part. It feels like it's the sort of nature of perception. But until we get to that point, it will experience it as a part. So yeah, absolutely. Notice it as a part. Notice that, and there's also parts that can mimic kind awareness. Or they call them self-like parts. So there's parts that, the one I was just describing to Aaron a second ago is a self-like part. It's not really me, because we're referring to our true self, not our sort of limited self. It's not really me, but it says it's like me, and it can do all this sort of great stuff, and it's like a manager that can manage stuff. But we want to recognize that there is a layer outside of that. One thing I forgot to mention to Aaron is that usually with parts, we sort of resolve their challenges by giving them support for things that are like internal to them, like, oh, if you part who's frustrated, let's say, if you are willing to let me talk to this part underneath that frustration, which is maybe sad or scared or something, then you won't ever have to be frustrated again. It'll be great. And that part's usually like, wow, really? That's amazing. Let's go for that. But when we get to those really outer layer parts that feel like they're us, or the intellectual part that understands everything, often we can motivate that part by saying, if you let us have contact with awareness rather than understanding awareness, you'll be able to understand things quicker. You'll be able to make network mental connections and all sorts of conceptual connections faster and more deeper than you ever were able to before. So you'll have more power and more ability to understand things. So wouldn't that be great? And that's a really powerful way to teach that part to let go, is say, oh, I'll actually be more powerful if I can not understand what's happening, if I can just go with the process, if I can not intellectualize it.
I see.
Yeah. So look out for anyone with a lot of mental horsepower. That's something you got to look out for, is the understanding part. That's actually just making a model of what's happening rather than the direct experience of the part. And I'll also mention this, and I'll talk about it in my psychedelic report, is that you can tell that parts become less complex as you get closer and closer to the sort of root pain or root, sort of wound. So like a part that's like, oh, I understand everything's happening. There's a meditation happening, and there's these parts, and here's the IFS model. Like, that's a very complicated, sophisticated part. And you go back a layer, and maybe it's a part that's like, I'm a little nervous. I need to show everyone that I understand, and I need to, so it's like a little bit simpler, but just like younger, sort of less advanced or less complex. And you can go back even further, and there's like a fear there, maybe. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, it is helpful. I understand now better, way better.
Awesome. Nice.
So is it okay to do meditation of many techniques at once? Like 1 minute I focus on parts, other I focus on like certain sensations?
Yeah, it is. You want to watch out for technique hopping, because there can be a sense of, okay, here's this technique and here's another one, here's another one. If you're going to do that, plan it ahead of time so that you don't get caught in the trap of just, bouncing and bouncing, because they develop exponentially. And so if you're doing one thing for 30 minutes, it's going to develop kind of in a J curve as far as its impact. And if you're doing like one thing, you're just incrementally going to be like, this little thing and this little thing and this little thing and this little thing, which is fine. It's actually can be a really good way to like shift the gears and go from one thing to another. It can be really great. And you just want to watch out for just sort of just playing in the mind, and the part that just wants novelty is just like, oh, how about this and how about that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you very soon. Let's chat soon.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Awesome. Okay, Alex has some comments here. Okay, I'll just select both and see what Alex says.
That felt like the most salient IFS meditation I have had yet. Really great.
Great.
I was able to conjure the often prominent sad part, which actually also felt located in my upper left body, heart and throat.
Okay.
I was able to be with it from kind awareness and spoke to it. It did like me saying I see it, but it did respond to I feel you.
Oh, good.
Alex_Taiji. Then I noticed a furrowed brow that felt like a skeptical defensive part.
Great.
Which I asked if I could work with the first part, and it melted to the background but still kind of watching out.
That's so great.
The sad part did seem to appreciate the attention and was unhappy the meditation was ending, but I told it I would still be here and come back.
Yay. That's great. That sounds to me like real IFS. That's great. And so, perfect. That's all perfect. And with that part that when we asked it to step back, it sounds like it was willing to, was able to. We just want to make sure those parts do feel welcome. They don't feel like we're like, oh, you're here. Just, could you mind just getting out of here? Because we need to, this other part's more important. If a part feels like, it's okay if it feels skeptical, that's fine. But if it feels like unheard or whatever, we can actually say, do you want to watch? Like you said, like it was skeptical sort of watching. Do you want to watch? Would it feel safer to watch from behind a pane of glass, or do you want to find a comfortable area to like hang out in? We can create an environment that's nice for these parts to sort of hang out in and relax. Sometimes parts will just know that they actually aren't letting us do the thing because they just keep asserting their, skepticism in this case. Like, I don't know about this process, or I don't know. Okay, well, we see that part. We just shift over to that. So that was really excellent. And that's great that it went so smoothly. It won't always go so smoothly, but that's really great that it happened to this time. And that's wonderful. Okay, any other comments, questions, challenges, queries, or concerns? What is this? Oh, views go away on April 14th. Wait, that's tomorrow. We want to make sure that the stat you see is accurate representation of your live audience engagement. This stat, as it exists today, doesn't meet that standard. Oh, I see. So they show me on my screen how many people have viewed my stream, which right now is 6,931 people. We only need 70 more views, but this is going away tomorrow. Okay, we only need 70 more views, and we'll get to 7,000. But whatever. Anyway. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I'm just showing you what's happening on my screen. Anything else, folks? Anything else coming up in your practice, in your life, anything like that? Dave says, how can we strategically pass through all objects with awareness? So I don't know what you mean by strategically, but I can say literally, you just take awareness and expand it out. You can take it now, right, as you're observing this. And I usually tell people to look away from the screen because there's representation in the screen. It creates a weird loop. So just look away from the screen. Look at the volume of space that's in front of you. Notice that it's easy to go right up to the edge of all the things that are in front of you, right? You can go whoop and have an awareness of the space, and it sort of stops at the objects. Now, this is useful if the premise that we're trying to do in our lives is to navigate objects and things, right? So we bring awareness up to that thing. Notice you can also be aware of behind those objects, right? So you just open up spatially to what's behind the objects. This sort of a bigger field of space. You're now like behind whatever these, I have walls here, and there's a sense of, okay, behind those walls, and I can imagine like the mind is just showing me, okay, I know there's a closet there and there's other space, and it can kind of expand, but that's mental images. We're just sort of expanding out. So we know it's easy to expand awareness up to the edge of an object. We know we can expand behind it. But notice all we can actually see is this super thin candy shell of the objects. We don't actually see the solidity of the objects. That solidity, again, is made up in the mind. So expand awareness beyond the objects, past them, and then let that sandwich of the two, the space that's coming up to the edge of the object and the space that's behind the object, let those two meet or get as close as they can. And then you can take up the space of the object itself. And notice when you take up the space of the object itself, the space behind it, the space in front of it, it sort of doesn't make sense anymore. The object is sort of, it phases out, or it seems confusing suddenly. And that's one way of seeing the emptiness of any particular object. Basically letting the softness of awareness pass through the seeming solidity of any particular thing that seems solid, knowing that that seeming solidity is something that the mind is doing. So hopefully that helps and is interesting. That's the big key. Let it be interesting. Okay, folks. Wonderful to be here with you as always. Let's for fun listen to some outro music. Folks, lovely to be here with you as always. Right now, take a moment to jump in and you can hear me clicking away here because I remember that these emojis can still launch even though we're in our outro mode. Folks, lovely to be here with you as always. So take a moment to just soak into that awareness. Take a moment to just let any parts that are arising be present. Let those be your friend. Let awareness welcome any parts that are here with us now. No need for them to be different. No need for anything to change. The part that's getting ready for our day that's coming up. The part that is remembering the meditation. The part that's clicking away in the chat. Noticing that as a part. And in that way, letting this particular moment be the great teacher, showing us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Folks, lovely to be here with you as always, and as always, practice well. Take care of each other, have fun, and we'll see you all very soon. Bye.